When it comes to EPCS, the DEA wants to ensure non-repudiation with absolute certainty. So to maintain the secure chain of trust throughout the entire EPCS process, there are a number of record-keeping and reporting requirements. Generally speaking, many of the same requirements for prescriptions of controlled substances using paper will apply to electronic prescribing for controlled substances. However, because there are additional steps needed to enable EPCS, there are additional reporting requirements. For example, organizations that use the institutional identity proofing model for EPCS must retain a record of the identity proofing event as well as the issuance of the two-factor authentication credentials to the correct approved providers. In addition, providers must report lost, stolen, or otherwise compromised authentication credentials to the individuals or department at their organization in charge of setting access controls so that that individual provider's EPCS permissions can be revoked. Note that in this case, the provider will need to have their identity checked again before they can be issued a new two-factor authentication credential to be used for EPCS. Also, providers must report fraudulently issued prescriptions to both those setting the logical access controls at their organization as well as to the DEA within 1 business day. For example, if a prescription is issued electronically under that provider's DEA registration number, but it was not a transaction that was signed by that individual provider. There are also record-keeping and reporting requirements associated with what the DEA refers to as security incidents. The application used for EPCS must generate a report that must be reviewed daily by a designated individual at the organization. This report must include a number of auditable events, including attempted or successful unauthorized access to the EPCS application, attempted or successful unauthorized modification of the logical access control settings, interference with the EPCS process or reporting functionalities, and a number of others. If the individual at the organization designated to review these reports discovers a security incident, it must be reported to both the application provider as well as to the DEA within 1 business day. Now, the DEA mandates that these and all other records must be easily readable and made available to the DEA upon request. And, similar to the record-keeping requirements for controlled substances using paper, the DEA requires that all records pertaining to EPCS must be kept for a minimum of 2 years. However, individual state law may require records to be retained for a longer period of time. New York, for example, which mandates EPCS through its I-STOP law, requires that records be kept for 5 years. So it is advised to check with your individual state requirements when setting your record retention policies for EPCS.
For more information, visit www.improvada.com/EPCS.